Aaron and Robin are seeing a therapist as they are concerned about the alcohol drinking behavior of their adolescent daughter, Michelle. As you watch this segment, observe the techniques used by the therapist.
Nice to have you here. Nice to meet you. Aaron, Robin, Michelle. I understand that you had a friend of yours refer me to you, so that's kind of how you've landed in my office today. And we had talked a little earlier about basically what I do as a counselor and my orientation as a systems therapist or a systems counselor, and what that looks like in terms of often what happens in families with individuals affects each other in ways in which sometimes we don't anticipate. And so that's kind of the way that I approach working with you, and wondered if you had any questions about that.
I don't have any.
Okay. We also talked a little bit about confidentiality, how what we say in here stays in here, and that there would be a few limits to that I talked with you about times in which I might have to break that confidentiality. And so I wanted just to kind of reiterate that with you. So do you have any questions before we kind of start? Yeah. I would think that this would be kind of a new, kind of a weird experience for you. Have you been in counseling before, ever?
No.
Yeah. So
just kind of heard friends talk about it, friends that referred you. So.
Yeah. So I can imagine that there would be some hesitancy in kind of coming in here and what's this going to be like and what's that about. And Michelle, I'm thinking from your perspective too, this must be kind of strange for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, like, kind of, I don't know what to say, or what's this going to be like? And
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are we gonna do? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would like to ask you all to do is, as we go along, and as we talk with one another, I'd like you to just be aware of maybe some feelings that you have, maybe some feelings about some of the things that you're telling me, or maybe some feelings about what it's like even being here. And kind of the rule that I like to establish is that we all get to kind of talk about those things. Sometimes the things that you might think that's not really important may be a really important thing. So I would ask you to just be aware of what reactions you may have or what things that come up during the session, and let's go ahead and talk about them. So with that, who would like to start? What brings you in?
I'll start. The thing that kicked this whole thing off is I work a lot out of town, and I travel a lot during the week, and I'm usually out of town Monday through Fridays, usually get back in pretty late on Friday nights. My schedule cleared up quite a bit on Friday, and I decided to come on back in Thursday night. And when I got in Thursday night, I could hear my wife and daughter, and I didn't know what was going on. And so I ran upstairs, and my daughter was bent over the toilet throwing up, and my wife was pulling her hair back out of the toilet and away from her face, comforting her. And when I immediately noticed the smell of alcohol and what was going on. So I just got a little concerned about her drinking, and especially getting to the point where she was throwing up in my home. And typically I really do not like the concept of alcohol. I don't want anything to do with alcohol. I don't want anything about alcohol in my house, especially affecting my daughter that way.
Yeah. So the fact that she's in the bathroom throwing up in the toilet and you go in and you smell alcohol was a new thing. You've never seen her or known her to drink before at all?
Not before this time.
Okay, so this is brand new to you.
Yes.
And must be quite a shock to you.
It was, I walked into my house, I heard what sounded like screaming and yelling, and I didn't know, I was I was afraid. I was shocked, and it just turned into just really being mad when all my senses came together, and I'm like, sick daughter, alcohol, it just all came together.
Mm-hmm. So what started is, you come up, you hear her throwing up, and you're concerned. There was a moment in which you were aware that it turned to anger for you.
Yeah. The minute that I smelled the alcohol, that's when I went from, overprotective dad to, just being mad at her, and I was angry with my wife for, just some of the things I was listening to my wife say. She was like, "Oh, honey, it'll be better, and don't worry about it," and all that kind of stuff. And I was just, I just felt kind of angry at both of them, the situation and both of them.
Yeah.
And this is where I would like to interrupt and point out that our daughter's getting older. She's going to be going to college in the next year. Drinking happens at college. We know this. She was asking questions about it, and I thought, well, it's a safe place at home. We'll just let her see what it's like so she can experience it. He's never there, so he doesn't know the kind of day in, day out questions that she's having and the things that she's being faced with even in high school. And I'm just trying to help prepare her for going away from home and not having us to protect her all the time.
So I want to see if I can get this right in terms of like the events that happen here. I'm hearing that you want to prepare her. So did she actually get drunk at home? And then
We were just having our toddies. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you were drinking together at home, and you got sick and had to use the bathroom. And so one of the things that you're saying is that, hey, this is something that I want to prepare her for real life. This is going to be a reality that she faces in college, and I want to help her. And Dad, I see your head kind of shaking back and forth. You're not in agreement with that strategy.
No, not at all. It's there's you can go to college and not drink just as well as you can go to college and drink. And it's been my rule in my house that there's no alcohol. And once again, I come in and my wife is encouraging something that they both know is a no-no in my home.
So I'm wondering if it felt like a surprise to you to see Robin drinking.
It did.
Yeah.
And once again, it just turned into anger at not only the situation but both of them, because my rule, my house, no alcohol. It's the first time that's happened that I know of.
But times are different from when you went to college. You don't know what the kids have to face these days, and she's going to be experiencing things that you and I didn't have to experience and making decisions that we didn't have to make decisions, and we just need to prepare her, because if we prepare her while she's with us, then we can help protect her for when she moves out and has to make these decisions on her own.
And those decisions would be better drunk.
She needs to know what it feels like to be drunk so that she can decide if that's what she wants.
I just can't understand what she's saying. I don't understand that logic.
It's interesting for me to watch this, because one of the things that I see is that you're having a conversation with one another about Michelle. And I'm wondering if this feels familiar to you. This whole way of kind of interacting with her, that you have your side, Robin, about here's the way that I think that we should raise our daughter, and Aaron, you have a very different view about that. I'm wondering if this feels familiar to you right now.
Well, for all intents and purposes, I am a single mom. I'm the one taking care of her each day. I take her shopping to buy clothes. I take her to school. I help her with homework. I cook her supper. He's not here, so
I'm working.
it is very much, I know her and her life more than he does.
Sean and Weston are seeing a therapist as they are dealing with feelings of growing apart in their relationship. As you watch this segment, observe the techniques used by the therapist.
Well, it's great to see you guys again, and I'm glad that you were able to make it back this week. I did want to go ahead and take a few minutes to just reintroduce some information that I gave to you in the beginning and that we spoke about during our first session, and that's the informed consent. And just a gentle reminder that I have a responsibility to report any incidents of child abuse, abuse of a person who's elderly or disabled, to the appropriate authorities. In addition, if either of you reveals that you're suicidal or homicidal, I would need to go ahead and report that to assure your safety and or the safety of another person. So, are there any questions that you have about that, or does that feel clear?
No, that's fine.
That's good. Okay. Well, great. I'm glad for that. Just again, to restructure our work and kind of where we left off last time, this counseling work is practiced from relational cultural theory. And to give you a sense of what I'm talking about by that, relational cultural theory really posits that our lives, our very meaning is predicated on participating in growth-fostering relationships. And what I've really learned about you is that your history has been a growth-fostering relationship. You've had a lot of zest, a lot of joy, just a lot of wonderful experiences together in your time that you've spent as a couple. And that over time, what's happened is that you've experienced many disconnections that happened repeatedly and that started to take on sort of a chronic pattern and become really an experience of isolation for each of you. In relational cultural theory, we use the term condemned isolation to speak about an experience in which each of us has a time in which we've been disconnected so much that we no longer believe in our own abilities to reconnect to each other, and we don't trust even our own sense of what's well for us in relationship, and we don't have a sense that the relationship can fulfill our needs. So we start to really get very fearful of continuing and moving, trying again and again to bring the other person back in. And so my sense is that that's largely what's happened. And as I've said that, are there any thoughts that occur for either of you initially?
Initially, no. I think what we're still struggling with is how do we move forward. We have a good conversation at home. We can talk about that stuff, but we tend to get stuck still. I would start off to say, I really do love you, and I want to be in a relationship with you, and yet there's this kind of tension all the time where we're fighting a lot. And we're not even yelling at each other. It's just kind of like this cold shoulder approach to the conflict in the house right now. I get home, I'm exhausted, I want my time, I need to debrief, and he comes home and wants to chat, and just doesn't give me my space to recover from the long day I've had. And then by the time I recover and I want to talk to him and want to interact with him, he's in bed asleep. And so our whole evening is, leave me alone, I want to chat. No communication, no connection, no interaction that's of any substance other than just the kind of biting edge stuff that's just kind of the cold shoulder stuff.
And so, Sean, do you have a sense?
That's pretty much it. I mean, he doesn't, he says he cares and he says he loves me, but he doesn't make the time to have those conversations when we get home. And like he said, I go to bed early because I get up early because I go to the gym and work out in the mornings. And so when I come home, I want to talk to him, and he doesn't want to talk. And then, the next thing you know, it's time for me to go to bed. I mean, I understand he spends the whole day talking and listening, but I just don't understand why he can't listen to me and talk to me at the end of the day. So.
Okay. And so you've said he spends the whole day talking and listening, and I don't know why he doesn't have the time to spend with me. Now, is that something that Weston's actually said, or is this your perception of what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does. I mean, he listens to people all day. That's what he does at work.
Well, I've said it. It's like I get home, I've listened to people's problems. I mean, I do work similar to yours. I want my downtime. It's like, I don't care what's going on in your office and which lawyer's fighting with which lawyer. It's a petty fights that he talks about, and I just don't want to listen to it right now. And I just need that time. if you will, I'm a classic introvert. I recover by having that downtime. And I just want a little bit of half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour of time to rest, to regroup. There's so much kind of crisis mode during the day that it's just, I'm exhausted. I mean, I
That
feel it
half hour,
right now.
45-minute turns into 2 hours, though. And then the next thing you know, it's time for me to go to bed. I mean, he knows I go to bed at 9 o'clock. I mean, he knows it. And so, he waits until it's time for me to go to bed. But then he wants to talk. Well, it's time for me to go to bed. I mean, if you really cared about me and wanted to talk with me, then you would make the time to do that. And he doesn't.
So what I'm really hearing is that, and you can correct me if there's a piece of this that I'm not understanding, but Sean, you get up early every morning, you go to the gym and work out and go have your day, and are waiting to share your day with him until he gets home, and then he comes home and he's really not participatory, for lack of a better word, simply because, as Weston stated, it's a long day. He's been working with clients all day, and he needs to really recharge and have that. However, in addition to that, what's occurring is that this period of recharge seems to be of an indeterminate length. Really, it can vary, and that it seems like things aren't, that you're not ever really having the time that you're seeking with him.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And what I'm also getting from you, Weston, is that there's an experience that's being had of working all day as a counselor, listening to people's experiences, what they share, and the depth of it, and by the end of it, you're feeling pretty depleted, and come home and really don't have an ability to take in at that moment any more information, and really have this need for recharge, downtime, and that oftentimes by the period when that's over and maybe you're ready to connect and move back in, Sean's already in bed because of his early day that he starts the next day.
Right. It's like our schedules are off sync a little bit. Actually, a lot, not just a little bit. They're off sync quite a bit.
And so I think this is a really good illustration of what's happening, is that the schedules are off sync, and so progressively what's happening is that there's this yearning for the relationship and to be in connection, while also it's just not happening. Trying to come together, but not really having a mechanism for doing that, because right now things are really working against that. And so what I'd like for each of you to maybe think about and reflect on is what we really would want to be different. And so thinking about this, again, framed in a relational cultural term, what would be zestful? What would tell you that you were in a growth fostering relationship here? What would be the three things that you would like to be different? What would be the qualities, I guess, of your relationship if there was this difference? And let me put a word of caution out as I ask you to state these things. I don't want this to be suddenly three things that are wrong with Weston, wrong with Sean. I want to know, actually, what are three things that would be different in the relationship if, in fact, it was working well?
Okay. Well, for me, I think the three things that would be different is that, one, we'd have the chance to talk in the evenings after work. We'd spend some time talking about our days and listening to each other. We'd have a chance to go out. He doesn't like to go out anymore, and that's how we met, out. And so I'd like to see that, us to go out. And then I think the third thing is that that we would do the things that would promote, intimacy and showing that you care. Because, I mean, he says, like he cares, and, yet, he doesn't want to go out. He doesn't, want to talk when he comes home from work. So, I mean, how do I know that he cares? So those are the three things I would like to see.
of all that you've said, there's a very evident experience that's being had of really wanting to know that you're cared about.
Yes, it's important.
And that really is what comes across as you state that. And I appreciate the authenticity with which you said that, Sean. So, Weston, what would be your three things? What would be the three qualities of the relationship that would be changed, that would mean it's going well and things are going as you wish for them to?
The intimacy, yeah, I think we've got a good connection around the intimacy, but for me, I would like to have sexual intimacy as well. So better emotional intimacy and better sexual intimacy. I remember meeting him at the dance club and seeing him across the floor, and it's like, wow, there's a hot guy. I want to get to know him. And he's working out, and he's looking pretty good. And I want to experience that and enjoy that. So that's more emotional and sexual intimacy would be one part of that. I like the idea of some type of date where we can spend time together. I think the third thing for me that I want is substance, for lack of a better term. And I guess for me that means I don't want a soap opera digest of what goes on in his work office each day. I mean, I don't like some of his colleagues. I don't care if they bought this boat or that car or did what. I want to know about him. I mean, he's got a great energy, a life energy. I want to know and reconnect with that life energy versus the soap opera digest of the work.
Let me ask you, what's it like, Sean, to hear Weston name this life energy and this experience that he had, and just it's interesting too, because as you said that, you lit up and you really had some great experiences of memory in your relationship with him. What's it like to hear him say that?
Well, I mean, it's nice to hear, and I do appreciate that, and you know, it is words, so it's words. It's nice words, but it's words.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, he says all these things, but, you know, he never wants to go out. I mean, we go to the bar where we met. He never wants to do that. He wants to be home, and, you know, he wants to have a sexual relationship, and that's all good. But, I mean, I can't be sexual with someone who's not listening to me, who's not willing enough to listen and be, because that, to me, that's intimate. Sharing and talking is intimate. So, you know, it's nice words. He's a good talker.
Ouch.
You just said ouch.
He's a good talker. It's like I've been dismissed. It's like when I try to be present to him, it's not the way he wants it, so we kind of keep going our separate ways. It's not when he wants it, so we kind of just, almost like a zinger.
Talk more about the zinger.
Well, just right now, I was saying what he wanted to hear. I get maybe I need to say it more and follow through with it more and put that out there, but it's like it's not enough. And it's like, what more do you want in terms of letting you know that I love you?
I have curiosity. You said I said what he wanted to hear. So, was what you said a true representation of what's going on for you?
Yeah, I mean, you saw me light up, and
I did.
And I tend to be a man of few words.
Okay.
And I won't say anything that doesn't mean for me, doesn't have meaning for me.
Okay.
And maybe that's our conflict, is I don't say it enough. I don't say it in ways that he can hear, or ways that reflect what he needs further.
Billy is coping with the loss of a significant relationship. For 6 months, she has been working with a therapist, which is now concluding today. As you watch this segment, observe the techniques used by the therapist.
Well, welcome back, Billy.
Yes.
This is it. It's your graduation day, right, so to speak. As we talked about over the last several sessions, this last 6 months has been a whirlwind, both up and down. We've learned a lot about each other along the way, and been preparing for this day, right?
Right.
So I guess just to get going today, let's think back over what brought you in originally, and we'll think about some of the things that happened, some of the ups and downs, connections and disconnections, as we've always talked about along the way. And so if we could, what was it that brought you in that very first day?
The very first day, as I told you before, it was like the tornado had kind of completely wiped me out, and there was nothing but debris left behind. I did not have a real good sense of who I was because I'd allowed myself to be so completely wrapped up in a person, you know. I didn't have much in the way of self-worth because I thought that, you know, how can I even, you know, I can't even be without this person, you know, that I have to have this person in my life in order to even really exist. You know, I didn't have any real sense of self-esteem and was feeling, you know, pretty bad about, you know, myself and who I was and who I wasn't. I was in a really confused state at that time.
I remember that very first day, and you came in and you sat down and you just put your hands in your hair. And you said, it is like a tornado right now, and I don't know where I'm going, and I feel like I'm being blown in all of these different directions.
Right.
And I kind of felt guilty about the fact that I had to stop you and say, we've got to go over, you know, all of these limits to confidentiality, because there might be instances where if you said something to me, I might have to report that. And I remember it felt like I was pulling away from you because you wanted just to move in really quickly.
Right.
And tell me about that. And I was concerned that first day that you might not even come back after that instance, but you did.
Right. I think I was so deep in what was going on with me at the time that I wasn't able to really absorb what you were trying to say or what you were trying to convey to me at the time. But it's a lot different now.
Right. Well, you said it was difficult to absorb, right? Mm-hmm. But I remember that even through, you know, just kind of the thrashing of a round of limbs and grabbing of hair, right? You still were looking really intently, and you still were looking for something. And I felt deeply compelled to move quickly into that relationship with you. Mm-hmm. And to share all of those things, knowing that we only had 45 minutes that first day.
Right.
And so feeling like we had to slow down and had to really work to make sure that we went through all of those things that are mandated, right? And all of the really important parts of what it is to be a counselor, so that you knew what to expect in those coming days.
Right.
So you came back that second time.
Yes.
Right. And so what was it like the second day that you came in?
I think when I came in the second time, that I was feeling a bit more, I think relieved is probably not the best word, but I was looking that there was just a little more sunshine as opposed to, you know, all that storminess that was going on before, that I can see that, you know, I can work towards something, that this can get better. And I think it's an issue of reassembling the pieces, you know, all the debris that had fallen after this huge tornado that kind of had wiped through my life at the time. And I was able to start seeing that I can move further, except I think we had got to a point where we had talked a little bit about being, I think, authentic or being true to self or something like that. And I don't know if I was exactly, you know, ready at that time to talk about that just then. And I felt, I guess, kind of pushed a little bit at that time.
Well, and I remember you telling me, I I remember you leaving that day, and I don't remember how far that was in, right? But I remember you leaving that day, and you just looked. It was that kind of confusion was back, and then you came in the next time and you sat down and you said, you told me that I could tell you if you weren't listening or if you weren't, and you did, and you said, and you named it as a disconnection, right? And I remember knowing that something felt off that day that you left, and then I remember it was kind of a feeling of reconnecting when you acknowledged that, and I still felt some level of guilt from having pushed you, but I wanted you to know that effort to push was really just that desire to move really quickly into a relationship and to learn more about you, because I had the same desire to have you feel like you've told me that you're feeling now, and I was feeling that with you, and so I think that, again, what you experienced as pushiness was my desire too, and maybe it was a misfire.
You know what? No, as I look at it now, and going back and reviewing it, then I might have felt because I wasn't in a place where I can hear or observe. But now I can go back and see that you were trying to care for me, and demonstrate, things that are healthy in relationships. Something that I needed to learn, which I wasn't prepared for then. So I can kind of reflect back and see what you were trying to do. So no need to feel guilty.
Well, that feels really good now, to hear you say that. I think, as I've mentioned to you, it wasn't the first day, it was a couple of days in probably, after a couple of sessions, that I guess one of the risks of the RCT, the relational therapy that I do, is that I'm probably going to be a little bit more disclosing, and I'll tell you when I'm feeling guilty. Right. And I did, and I remember you saying, well, you don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to feel that. But it was part of what we experienced. Yeah. Tell me more about the movement that you experienced after having broken up with your boyfriend, or actually when your boyfriend broke up with you after a significant period of time. Tell me more about how you moved through that with me during the course of our 6 months together.
I was able to, I think emerge, I think it's a good word, emerge as a person and really develop who Billy is and own who Billy is, where I wasn't able to own who I was before, because I thought that I had to, almost like a chameleon, become someone else, as opposed to, be authentic in myself. And so I was able to be more centered. I was able to increase my self-worth, understanding that, that I am a valuable person, and it takes two valuable people in a relationship. And it shouldn't be just one on the receiving end of that.
Really, you took from that was that it takes two people that are equally invested in a relationship for it to work.
Right.
And that if one doesn't want to be in that relationship, or if one is invested in things elsewhere, that probably neither person is getting what they need. It was tough to acknowledge that.
Yes. I thought that it takes, two to make one complete person, and that's not right. Two broken people cannot make one, complete person. It just ended up being two broken people. So, I was just appreciative as going through this process with you, that I was able to come to the conclusion that I have to, be okay with who I am, own who I am, and be able to feel that I deserve to be in a healthy relationship. So that's something I definitely appreciate.